entrepreneurship. I started thinking about data intensely from my very first conversation with Tim, where we talked about the internet as an open platform and data as one of the things that makes this platform different than other platforms, in terms of the fact that you normally think, okay, it's a set of code built upon an operating system or something like that. But actually, this platform, the data is the platform. And it was that, various food camps. We were fortunate to get invited to a Friends of O'Reilly camp I recommended to you, and LinkedIn and investments that made me think about the theme that I'm talking about today, which is, what are we stumbling towards in terms of Web 3.0, and data is really key to that. Together as entrepreneurs and technologists, we are inventing and creating the future. And we're discovering a new world, and we're doing it faster than most people think. If you look back to the 50s and the 70s, and you looked at what kinds of predictions they made about the future, those predictions would be things like flying cars, robots, computers that would advance the boundaries of physics, and would essentially be, we'd be living in a world of the Jetsons. And of course, none of that, has come true. I flew here on an airplane, courtesy of the Wright brothers, and customer service courtesy Darth Vader. and I'm sure most of you did as well. And yet all of these magical predictions didn't turn out to be true, but it wasn't that the future wasn't magical. It's that the general rule that I think about when I think about the future is it is sooner and stranger than we think. And instead of flying cars, right, instead of robots, no robot made me coffee this morning. I had to make it myself, unless you count me as the robot, being 2 hours earlier than our time zone here. That didn't happen, but instead we entered into an information age where the ability to do things, everything ranging from like looking at genetics as code, the internet, the World Wide Web. All of these things became, kind of key to kind of how we're accelerating in the future. So remember what Web 1.0? Web 1.0 was this really low bandwidth environment. I don't know how many of you are going to look at me strangely when I say this, but I remember being excited by getting a 2400 baud modem. It's probably, the people who weren't clapping probably don't know what I'm talking about. And so, Web 1.0 was this environment by which we would go out and we'd search for files. HTML files, right, it's file format. PDFs, Flash, we'd bring them back. There was this, kind of notion of going into cyberspace. And it was kind of this alternative, strange reality. You didn't actually go there as Reid Hoffman with My Relationships Around Me. You went there as, Anime Thing or Lost in Austin, right? And you might be, you were kind of vaguely worried that maybe some thief would steal your credit card number. And if you were chatting someone up, you were worried that they were a balding old man. And that was kind of what Web 1.0 was. Web 2.0, the central part of the revolution, which Tim has also written a lot about, is where the web and real life essentially become much more integrated, where our presence online is our real name, our real relationships. And the applications that are built on top of this are things that help us navigate our real relationships, the relationships we already have, the world that we're already navigating. And so it becomes something that is much more deeply embedded in terms of what we're doing. And so the way to kind of conceptualize the range of Web 2.0 apps are everything from, of course, social networks, which tend to be very central to this whole thing, but also blogging, right? Most blogs are by their real names. And all of that kind of production, and now of course we have a bunch of things happening on mobile, all of that production of identity and presence and relationship information that help us navigate, what restaurants to go to, which movies to see, what to buy, those sorts of things. And the impact has been dramatic. most recently, we have everything from the revelation of truth in WikiLeaks to revolution in the Middle East, which is key from the viewpoint of empowering people and a coordination of people being able to express their voices. And so that's part of the reason why the Web 2.0 thing is not just a name, it's an important trend. And we're having a tribal and global conversation in Web 2, which is one of the reasons why other countries that also have populations of employment look at what's going on in Egypt and Libya and are paying attention to it. So this leads us to the natural question: what is Web 3? Right? Why should we care about it? Right? And how do we navigate it? And I think people have given all kinds of definitions to Web 3. I'm not really trying to give a semantic talk. The categorization isn't interesting. What is interesting is where should we put our entrepreneurial energy to invent the future? So let me go through a bunch of the prospects that people have said about Web 3, not because, again, semantics not interesting, but because the what should we invent and where should we be going and where is all this technological change leading us is important to both be thoughtful about and also how we create the future. So the kind of definitions I've heard about Web 3 are: it's about bandwidth, it's about the application of the web, it's about video, especially with bandwidth, it's location, it's real time, it's mobile. Let's see, I think there's probably some more. And of all those, I would say mobile is probably the most relevant, because if you haven't seen iPhones and Androids everywhere, I don't know which part of the developed world you're living in. Obviously, it's still spreading. But that's kind of boring and uninteresting, right? It's clear that the real time with us and how our identities and relationships get expressed to that is going to be very important. The reason I go to data is because this is the progression I see between Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. And what I think is going to be really interesting in terms of the kinds of applications we can build, the kind of future we can build. Web 1, go search, get data, weird interactivity. Web 2, our real identities, our real relationships. As our real identities and real relationships, we are generating a massive amount of data. We are blogging, we are tweeting, we are status updating, we are uploading photos. It's not just explicit data, we're also essentially implementing, doing implicit data. In fact, we turn on a phone, right, with a GPS location. And then there's the analytic data that goes on top of that, which is when we munge that data with just algorithms or with other data sources and else and generate analytic categories of data. And my belief is that Web 3 is going to be, if there's an important thing to look forward to what we can invent, it's what are we inventing out of that data. And the reason why Web 3 is new and unique is because we didn't have all of this massive data that all of us are generating. Right? Even here, actually especially, you can hear the little keyboard clicks here in this audience right now. And so that's why I think Web 3 is an interesting thing to look at. However, there's some potential challenges that we should go through first as a way of getting here. One of the very prominent concerns for thinking about this topic has been privacy. And I think the thing that, anytime there's new changes in media, people experience the newness not just as something that they're kind of delightfully rushing towards the future in, but also nervousness, anxiety. What happens? And so now there's this ton of data about everybody that is massively available online, and a lot of different sources, a lot of different data, a lot of different mungible sorts. And what does all that mean? And there's a lot of discussion about kind of what do corporations do that, what do individuals do with that, what should the standards be? And actually, of all of that discussion, the discussion that makes me most nervous is what do governments do? And it's because there's kind of two issues when it comes to governments and data. One of them is if the government is itself the source of most kind of pure power. the ability to put people